From Variety, celebrating more than 118 years covering the business of entertainment, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. Is this truly the end of HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm? According to the cast, it sure seems like it.
There's no doubt in my mind that this is the end. If we did more episodes, I would be thrilled to do it. If we do a movie, I have no desire. This is perfect in short form. And Larry David is a genius with whatever he wants to do.
I'm Michael Schneider, and on this episode of the award-winning Variety Award Circuit Podcast, we talk to Curb Your Enthusiasm stars Jeff Garlin, Susie Essman, J.B. Smoove, and Cheryl Hines about the end of the landmark HBO series and their lasting memories from their time with Larry David. Also on this episode, the Roundtable is back and ready to set the stage for Emmy season. It's all next on this edition of the Variety Award Circuit Podcast. Stay close. Well, so this is the Variety Award Circuit Roundtable podcast thing. Right? That's what we call it?
That's what we call it? It is a thing.
I am TV editor Michael Schneider. I got Emily Longaretta sitting across from me. Television star Emily Longaretta.
Television star. No, guys, I know y'all can't see, but I am in full hair and makeup today, which is not usually. I'm in
today.
Full
it was
zombie mode.
It's very upsetting. This
is what happens when I have a TV hit in the morning.
Full glam. You got to take advantage of this. Like, go out and host another show this afternoon.
Book as much as I possibly can. Yeah.
Tuesdays are good days.
Exactly.
Then there's Jazz Tankay hanging out. Artisan's guru, Jazz Tankay.
Hello.
And then the man with the predictions, Clayton Davis.
They're wrong all the time.
We're just not as glamorous.
That's what the internet says.
Exactly. Well, so we have a cake that's sitting right on the table in front of us from the...
Is it cake?
It should be. Is it cake,
It is Netflix. It's at Netflix's FYC, and apparently they're inviting us to their event, so... What is this? Is this a cake?
It's a crown.
It is like a... It's a... Is this cake?
You know what? I am really impressed by this. This is a crown on top of a pillow.
It's beautiful. Here, where's my camera?
It's very royal.
I'll take some photos. Shout out to Netflix for sending this for us to unbox on our podcast.
So it says, fondant cake crowned is decorative and should be eaten. I don't know how I feel about fondant, though. It looks pretty, but I don't know how delicious that's going to be. And so they're doing their FYC event. It's, May...
Oh, I got it exclusive from Variety.
Yeah.
May 12th until June 2nd, kicking off with Griselda.
So hopefully the giveaway will be cocaine.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Actually, they probably have the greatest turnout in history.
I hope they do hand out like little sugar packets or something. That'd be really funny.
Yeah. So we're in the middle of so Amazon, their pop-up has already happened. On our newsletter this week, I had Deborah Birnbaum's dog, Sammy Poodle, give us a tour of the event. Now it's probably I've already peaked for Emmy season. I'm not going to do better than having Sammy like in every display.
Yeah, Sammy was the MVP last year too. Every panel just running through the big area that they had that was so beautiful last year. So.
And I think Apple is doing something that we're going to break soon. And I don't know about the other folks. We're still waiting to see. I think Warner's is doing something. We just don't know what.
And Universal, I assume, will have their house back, their FYC house that they've done the past couple of years. They haven't announced it yet, but
last year was at the Grove, right?
No, the Universal house was right in
the
Hollywood.
Avalon, I think. Yeah.
No, that was 2 years ago. I was thinking of the Peacock, the Bel Air one that they
right.
had. Yeah.
And Disney is doing something again. I'm not sure what. I think it's going to be a similar thing at the DGA, right? Is that where they did
I
it
think
last
so.
year? Yeah. And then Paramount, I think, is going to be an In-N-Out Burger. I don't know.
Paramount Plus with Showtime or Paramount Plus?
I'm so tired.
Paramount.
Oh, listen,
I'm so tired.
We can start off with that RIP Showtime app today. It goes away.
Wow. But the network is still there. The network is just called
channel.
Although it's Paramount Plus with Showtime.
I did a shoot this weekend that I won't say here, but I was in the office on Sunday with some of the Paramount folk who were here, and we were saying like, well, they were trying to explain to me Paramount Plus with Showtime, and I was like, is this? They were like, well, the app is going to be gone, but the channel, like if you still pay for it as part of your cable package, will still be there. It'll just be called Showtime with Paramount Plus or Paramount Plus with Showtime, whatever it is.
So there's no like straight ahead Showtime anymore.
That's not a thing.
So
just get rid of the channel.
The two biggest channels, HBO and Showtime, change their names to two things that none of us will call them ever.
Well,
right,
HBO is still HBO. Shout out to HBO. They still exist.
I mean, sure.
They're still a channel.
I know, but my parents were like, "Oh, we got to get rid of HBO," and I was like, "Guys, you have Max. Everything is on Max." They're like, "Ugh, we got to." I was like, "There's no difference. You just have to go to the app."
That is the business model of Hollywood right now. It's just basically hoping that people are still confused and that they will still pay for cable, not realizing that they already get all of those shows. And they're hoping that old people just
do you guys all
can't
pay
figure
for
it
cable?
out.
I do.
We do. Yeah.
Just as a nostalgic,
I know.
All three of you do, and I do not.
I still have DirecTV, and every time I'm about to shut it off, I find a reason why I still want to hold on to it.
Yeah. Same
Even
thing.
if it's like something dumb, like once a week, I can watch SNL live on the New York NBC station.
Yeah, but you can watch it. I do that on Peacock.
Yeah.
No, here's my
the
thing.
conversation I have with my dad every week.
No, here's my thing. If the internet goes out, we don't have anything, right?
Well, it's funny because if the internet goes out, I don't have anything because I don't have a box. I have the streaming app of cable.
Do you have Spectrum?
I have Spectrum.
That's what I used to have, the app.
Yeah, because
it's way cheaper than
because
having,
California
the whole
is
thing.
terrible. I miss Verizon Fios so much.
Yeah,
but
same.
That's an East Coast thing.
I just like having 700 channels and only watching like probably
But that's
3.
how you discover TV. That's how you discover shows. Like I was talking about this with a buddy the other today. Actually, I said, Nick at Night, man, let me discover Mary Tyler Moore,
100%.
Mork and Mindy.
Same.
That's how I saw them. I
Same.
didn't see them anywhere else.
And I'm still a geek for seeing how shows are scheduled and promos and all that kind of stuff. And you miss that if you
absolutely.
So that's why every time I get this close to cutting the cord, I realize, oh no, I still need to see like what things look like on a channel. So
do you see that thing that goes around? Emily, you might see it. It comes on TikTok or Instagram Reels. They always show the promo of the Home Improvement episode.
Oh, always.
When Jonathan Taylor Thomas was like, thought they were going to die, and then they showed like
cancer,
and they showed some funny thing like after.
It's like a jump scare. Like it's so serious, but that's how it was.
TV.
Well, TV. Speaking of TV, that's all we're talking about right now.
No more movies for you.
We are back to the good stuff. So we're entering this season, and it's May now, which is shocking, which is unsettling that it's already May. But this means that we are deep into FYC season, which started on March 1st. I mean, we've already been doing FYC for, what's math? What is that? April, 2 months, right?
Yeah, I feel like we started in like
it was
end
March
of
1st.
February.
Yeah,
March 1st,
because Only Murders was the very first FYC event on March 1st. So
Yeah.
literally the 75th Emmys ended, and then the next day we were talking about the 76th Emmys. But yeah, so we're knee deep in FYC season, and submissions are due on
Tuesday,
May,
1 week from today,
May 9th.
time of recording.
So that's coming up soon, and so we're figuring out where things stand. Clayton, you've been all over the map and figuring out where shows are submitting, and sometimes they're having to resubmit. Looking at you, The Walking Dead.
What a good run. The Walking Dead, which was funny because they have spinoffs. They have 3 spinoffs right now that exist: Daryl Dixon, Dead City, and The Ones Who Live. And 2 of them they decided to try for a drama series, and one, The Ones Who Live, which was inarguably the good one. They try to
remind us who this is. That one's Andrew Lincoln.
Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrero.
That was good. Yeah, that
6
was good.
episodes.
The return of Rick and Michonne, the love story.
That Denai Guerrero wrote an amazing piece of television.
Yes,
episode 4. They tried to submit it into limited, and it was like, nope, you cannot do that because it's an ongoing story from a previous story. That doesn't mean a season 2 necessarily is coming back. We don't know yet. So they're all being drama series. But what's funny about this year is that it would opt to go into limited series because that is where it's the most competitive probably in the last 5 years. And we still have only 5 slots that are going to be available. Whereas drama series, which will have 8, it is look for a contender right now. Only 1 returning show
In The
from
Crown.
last year in The Crown.
Yeah.
Everything else is going to be new. And everyone is kind of throwing a Hail Mary and going for it.
So looking at the landscape, I mean, things look very different than they did just a little bit ago. For comedy, The Bear is still the front runner by far, but
But then we have 2 drama frontrunners in 2 separate categories, right? I guess.
Well, yeah, the Bear is the front runner for comedy
Yep.
and the drama, the Bear. But no, I think with Hacks coming back, there is, and such a strong year of Abbott, this comedy race is a little bit more like it's not just 100% locked into the Bear, even though I think part of me thinks the Bear will still sneak out. But Hacks also, we don't know how people are reacting to Hacks yet. It hasn't. I mean, it's excellent from those who've
Not
seen
yet,
it.
yeah.
They're
But
gonna love it. They're gonna love it.
absolutely.
But yeah, I do think there is that knock against the Bear not being a comedy, and there seems to be a growing groundswell of people who are like, we shouldn't reward it for that. So
Right.
I think it's going to be tough for it to not win, just because it's already a huge front runner and it's winning everything. But nonetheless, that does open the gate for Hacks. It opens the gate for Curb in its final season. Opens the gate, of course, for Abbott. So this comedy's an interesting race, despite the fact that there is a clear front runner.
And we have, the Bear won 14 seconds ago because we had a delayed Emmys.
Right.
And inarguably, I think a lot of people feel like, especially someone like Eben Moss in the show, who's great, he won a season too early. He won for season 2.
of course.
Yeah.
But in the season 1 window. So
Yeah, people are still so
They're
confused by
confused.
that.
yeah. And I think
And season 3 is going to be dropping in June.
in the same exact way. So I think having this, we never had a sweeper sweep back to back. So there's got to be some like give and take. I think some things will win again, some things won't. I mean, I've spoken about this with Mike. I don't think your name is Gene Smart. You beat cancer and come back and lose an Emmy. And like, I just don't feel like, I just feel like she's going to do it again.
Same.
And then Eben feels like if it's based on season 2, then he feels like the front runner. But then Larry David, I mean, dude has not won an Emmy yet for inarguably like, his gift to television.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
crazy.
Evan will be lead, or Evan will be supporting.
Yeah,
and then Larry will be lead against Jeremy Allen White.
yeah.
So it's
And then there's 100 supporting people from the Bear. You have Abby, you have Liza Cologne Zayas, who I just found out, by the way, is the wife of David Zayas. I did not put it
Yes.
together, and I'm now happy.
power couple.
So yeah, the comedy race is definitely more fluid, but it's limited. That is your embarrassment of riches. And I wrote a little bit about it. Mike is going to write about it. We're all going to say it week after week. Please give us 8 nominees. This arbitrary 5, or this arbitrary based on submissions, is all the good TV is a limited
It's
series.
crazy
now.
this year.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
crazy.
I
We're
don't
gonna
know
have
if that
fun.
math ultimately works. I mean, it was an interesting idea at the time to base the number of submissions on how many, or the number of nominees rather, on how many submissions.
Yeah.
But who has that math? I'm still telling people, there may only be 3 talk nominees, and they are look at me
Or
with
2.
shock.
Or 2. There could be 2 talk series nominated.
know.
And and then 2 talk series, 2 scripted variety, just merge it. But I think,
Yeah, and throw in shorts as well. Just throw in like the kitchen sink.
Truly.
Outstanding other category. No, I think we limited, especially because Shogun just wrapped up, and what a gift to television that has been. But yeah, Fargo, Ripley, a little show called Baby Reindeer. I don't know if anyone's heard of it.
Well,
Taking the internet by storm.
why don't we talk about Baby Reindeer?
Yeah.
Wild.
I mean,
There's no
did any
reindeer
of
in
you? Yeah, first off, there is no reindeer.
There's no reindeer in that show.
Nothing
There's
to
no-
do with
There's no cute baby reindeer.
It is not.
Spoiler
cute.
alert.
The year of 2 animals that do not appear in the show: the bear and baby reindeer.
Trend.
One more to
Trend
make it a
alert.
trend, right?
There's got to be one more, right?
There has to be,
Yeah.
right?
Well, we'll look into it.
I will find one.
But did
guys.
any of you see this coming, Jazz?
Not at all.
Not even a
at
little
all.
bit.
It was just
No.
like I was just saying that we were at this panel with Netflix, and it was brought up, and I think at that point we were all like, hadn't heard of it, and literally like within 48 hours, it just became a sensation.
I think even
and
its poster is misleading on what it actually is.
Yeah.
It looks like a horror show, and it's not. I mean, it is kind
It
of
is.
in a different way, but it is. I mean, we love surprises like this. Squid Game also took the world by storm, but this is interesting because you watch it, and 2 episodes in, you're like, this is really, really funny, and then it makes the hardest pivot into a harrowing drama I think I've ever seen in a show in some years.
episode 4 is the
Episode 4
craziest thing I've seen.
I will say, as someone with anxiety, I have a very hard time watching it.
I'm
So
sure.
that is my only hesitation, is if people will start it and then be like, I can't, so
No.
that's the worry. Obviously it's doing incredible on Netflix, and it's always great to see any show that takes off, especially when it's like not an A-list name. It's not a huge, I always love to see that, but I think that could be the only thing going forward, is like we live in a time that's a little bit darker. We're in the year of an election, and now there's this show that's extremely dark.
Right.
Well, it's interesting that I think you're 100% correct, but the switcheroo is that when you start it, you think it's something else, and
That's
it makes
true.
the
Yes.
pivot. Like Beef, it took me forever to finish Beef because I got agita from
Me too.
episode 1. But this was like, I was watching, I was like a little nervous, but then I was like laughing. So I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then it just becomes something else. So I think that does put the litmus test of like, will they finish it? Will they complete it? Or is 1 or 2 episodes enough,
Yeah.
to kind of pull over the finish line? But
Guys, are there horses and slow horses?
No.
Nope. There you go. Trends.
Here we go,
Oh,
guys.
oh, that's our trend.
Oh.
live
okay.
reporting on the
I need,
podcast.
to, I need to make room in one of our Emmy issues.
Someone needs to write that story.
Like all Emmy contenders, no animals. Like that's what it's
Exactly.
called.
I know that's been my ongoing concern with slow horses is forever. I think it's like another Taylor Sheridan Western,
And
and
I'm
it's
like, oh,
not.
no.
It is so far from that.
Yeah.
But no, I think the comedy is really well, I guess, like overflowing. There's a good number of stuff, including Gen V, which has obviously a very tragic story that got added to the mix this year, and it's going in the comedy
Yeah.
category.
And you're actually bullish on it. You're predicting it's a nomination.
And listen, I say this with the utmost respect for Chance's family. I think when there's a death to a show that with someone that's as young as Chance was, I think it piques curiosity. I think voters are going to watch, I didn't hear of the show, or I didn't know who Chance was. Let me watch and see what it was about. And it's a really good show. And if you like The Boys, then I think this is kind of up your alley, which is funny that's going comedy, because I think this is like less funny than The Boys actually is, and The Boys is in drama. So
Yeah. I worry that because of there's been so much talk of some of these more recent shows too, that is going to hurt some of the shows that went away last year that still deserve some attention, like Reservation Dogs, but that feels like a lifetime ago now.
I know. Res Dog's going out. Like, I feel like writing will be, hopefully it's like, here's something for your efforts of this ride. But What We Do in the Shadows is the penultimate season, because next season, the next eligibility is last final season for What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
So there's a lot of like kind of coming to that end of the golden era of television. I feel like Succession's off, Veep is off. What We Do in the Shadows is about to go away, and now we're gonna have this new entity where we're gonna have hiatuses between
we'll
we're gonna have
see.
new shows every year for like the next 10 years.
Right. There's
In
not
drama
going to be,
series.
well, dramas, yes, I would say.
Dramas, yeah.
I mean, drama is an interesting category this year. Now that Succession's out of the way, so
I mean,
there is
the morning
opportunity.
show is gonna get it. Like, and that's
100% it's getting
like
in.
if it can't now, it's like it's never going to. But I think and the thing with Slow Horses, you bring this up, Mike, and I was talking about this I think with Jazz. I keep getting this Yellowstone vibe from Slow Horses, is that it's season 4, right? 3 that's eligible, and Yellowstone was the #1 show on television, season 4, and voters, it's not a show you could just jump into, so you have to like go back
Right.
and watch stuff, and I don't think people like put in that effort.
With Slow Horses?
Or just any show.
With any show,
I
yeah.
think
There's
it's really
too
hard
much
to
new
get people to
stuff
go
on.
back and
Right.
watch them. I mean,
Yeah.
do people watch it? Sure, but it's never gotten in the Emmys before, so if it's a contender, people want to
Right.
watch
But-
it.
Unless it suits, then
Unless
they will
it's-
go back and watch it from the beginning.
What if Suits? What if Suits just got
Next
it?
Don't
year.
put
Next
that
year when Suits LA
there.
Exactly.
premieres.
Yeah.
But that's
What-
just a new category. Is like
Best returning program.
best returning binge.
Oh, we should do that.
But
Oh,
what's
man.
interesting though is like with Succession gone, I feel more and more people are actually watching Slow Horses and liking. Gary Oldman is so good in it. Like you will go back and you want to see this character because he's just
They're looking for their next Succession. I think there is like a yearn for like good TV, because I even find
Good
myself
heavy
like,
drama.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm looking for stuff out there that like that you can. We want that water cooler show. That's why I like Stranger Things this year. My God, if it was
Yeah,
able
it
to
would
do
be
this
everywhere.
year, like it would have probably done it. But yeah, but that's I think moral of the story. Looking at this, and The Crown, as we have the Crown cake sitting in front of us, The Crown looks poised to win for a season that everyone was pretty like meh about.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that tells you what the drama landscape is like.
Well, and that's where campaigning could make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see just, if there is a show that sort of makes a stand and makes some noise in the coming weeks that can kind of surpass that. Because you're right. I mean, it's, always with the Emmys, it's the incumbent that has the advantage. And we could very easily see a Crown Bear Emmys in September.
Yeah, and it's always important to say this. Like I always look for precedent. We all decided the last time there was ever true unity in the United States of America was we all decided as a nation that the final season of Game of Thrones was trash. We all,
Right.
as a nation, we came together and we
Yes.
all said it
Yeah.
loud and proud that we wrote columns about it, and that cakewalked to an Emmy win.
Yeah, exactly.
With no questions asked, and Succession was there, and Pose was there,
Mm-hmm.
and it just didn't matter. So sometimes that's why I just think campaigning does matter, but sometimes they'll just go prestige television.
Right.
Like I'm
Or
supposed
the
to
water cooler show.
I'm supposed
Yeah.
to do this. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's true with a lot of the shows. It's like maybe people don't even watch these shows. I know that's the one that's supposed to win,
Totally.
so I'll just
Yeah.
vote for it.
But
Yeah.
I think that's really the landscape this year. But comedy is semi exciting because it is a little bit of a question mark, even though there is an agreed upon front runner. And then limited, pick your poison: True Detective, Fargo, Shogun, Ripley, Masters of the Air,
Lessons
Fellow
in
Travelers,
Chemistry.
Lessons in Chemistry.
Well, speaking of surprises, I mean, we live in a world where an investigation discovery show could actually make some waves in unscripted.
That is very true.
So
Can I ask you guys
Yes.
do we think that quote unquote bonus episode poisoned the water a little bit because it was just kind of like
we're talking about Quiet on the Set.
Quiet on
Right
the
on
Set, yeah.
Yeah. So
That-
the fifth episode that they decided to do after the first couple
Yeah.
took off. I think as someone who had covered it so much, I feel like that didn't muddy the water as much as the amount of press that they did around it. I think there is a way of pushing too hard on a show. When it comes to unscripted, I think you have to be really sensitive, especially when it's a doc about something so heavy like abuse or sexual assault. So I feel like the amount of press, the early FYC panel, the putting these people, that's a lot.
and the backlash does listen, it's similar to the Jinx part 2.
Yes.
Right now, which I just started watching that first episode. And I love the Jinx season
Yes,
1.
of
I
course.
think it's one of the best things
So well
ever.
done.
But that first episode of Jinx part 2 is a little gross. It made me feel icky.
So that's what I mean. I think there is a bit of that icky feeling, but I think ultimately when you look at the directing of it and how it was produced, that stuff, not looking at the actual subject matter, they did a great job with it.
Yeah.
So the fact that ID could break into that is pretty wild.
Yeah, and that's mostly thanks to Max. So,
I would say that's 99.9% thanks to Max.
but nonetheless, it would
This
be
is,
credited to ID.
Yes, of
so,
course.
Listen, this is what's it called? Schitt's Creek 2.0. Netflix won that show
Yeah.
Yeah.
comedy series.
Well, I also want to throw in there's this other realm that my surprise show that's not on any prediction list is The Way Home, because it is a time when drama is an open race, and if it's going to break in anytime, it's now, because Andy McDowell and Kyler Lee are so good on it. My issue is if it was a Netflix show, it would be in this race 1,000% because it's on Hallmark Channel and people don't. Now it's on Peacock, but I think Peacock is also a struggle.
Yeah.
So, but the amount of people who watch it, the amount of people who read about it when we write about it, I mean, that it's a huge audience that I do think it could break through, and they are doing an FYC push around it.
There is something to be said, with the Hallmark Channel, with the Green Veil that's debuting on the network.
Yep.
These are two shows, I'm sure there's something else I can't think of, that feel like 90s throwbacks that during Private Practice, Boston Legal
Yes.
would be in the race, and they feel different. I wonder if there's kind of because we are just reinventing cable, right? Essentially right now.
Exactly.
So what if they're just what if we, had these shows that kind of make us feel like that?
Yeah.
And I think you might have done a story, or we're looking at a story about these the procedural dramas, like, sorry, R.I.P. NCIS.
Yeah,
but-
what did
Right,
someone
yeah.
just procedural is the
Procedural.
new thing.
Oh, I do like that.
Procedural.
That's
Someone
like
at
Bravo Celebrity.
Yeah, someone at
Yeah.
Universal said that because obviously we know NBC is the master at that. But I think that's a total true thing. I mean, Law and Order SVU is in the conversation for the first time in many years.
Mariska
wild.
Hargitay,
Yeah.
Power of Women cover.
Yep, there you
Congratulations, Emily.
Thank you.
Yeah, like she used to be a staple in the category,
Yeah.
and listen, they may just go back to the well and be like, you know what, come on back to
I'm
the
here
party.
for it.
It's so
Yeah.
wild.
Bring back the broadcast networks to the Emmys.
I mean, from your ears
Yeah.
or from your mouth to.
I do want to point out, isn't Abbott so much better because it's 13 episodes, not
100%.
22?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm a sucker for a 22
Yeah.
season.
I know you are. That I swear to God, man. I think 22 episode seasons are kind of what gets a lot, because that's what that's
It's a
why,
lot. It's a commitment.
That's why Lost, like for me, wasn't the greatest, because I'm just like, God, if you just trim this out, man. it'd be
No,
good
but
to
then
me.
you wouldn't have had the episodes of just Jack at the beach and
Yeah.
learning about where he got his tattoo from. Come on, that was a great episode. I will not have you besmirch Lost.
How dare you.
My
that's
presence.
what you missed. Jack at the beach episode.
That's getting his tattoo.
Yeah.
That was the moment where everyone was like, maybe we could just do 16 a season. I don't know if we need to do 22.
Yeah.
But
Can we also just say X-Men 97? Have you been watching?
Oh my God, it's
No.
the best thing.
Oh my
ever.
God. So I wanted to like do this whole story about like, can it get into like drama series or comedy series? Because Family Guy got into comedy series, one of the maybe 2008 or something. But Emmy rules, you have to choose one or
Yes,
the
you do.
other. And that sucks.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a cop-out.
Where would you put it?
No, you have to choose animated
Animation
program
or-
or comedy. You
An
can't do
animated
both.
program, I think, would go to Scott Pilgrim this year, is my guess.
Ooh, I think it's X-Men or Blue Samurai.
There we
But maybe
are.
Scott Pilgrim.
There we go.
I mean, it's a hefty category now.
Yeah.
I think the problem is a number of these animated shows tried comedy. Simpsons tried it as well, and it just never panned out because there's still
Animation.
bias against animation.
Yeah.
So you have a much better shot of any sort of attention by just going into animation, which is too bad because these shows do deserve to be up against regular comedy.
Especially coming from the
Yes.
guy who still watches The Simpsons till this
And it's
very
still
day.
great.
Yeah.
Well, and thinking
So-
of it, and like Seth MacFarlane with
Yeah.
with Family Guy, it's like, and then now Ted, he's a comedy legend,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Simpsons is Mike's Grey's Anatomy. He's sticking
Yeah, it
to
is.
it. You gotta see how it ends.
will watch
Forever.
it till it
Yeah.
ends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
ends.
And it will
So-
never end. So
Yeah.
so that's great. So real quick around the horn, what's everyone been watching? What's a quick pick to click of something either went back to watch recently or you're starting to binge now and you can't say Baby Reindeer?
Yeah, I'm watching The Circle with an AI player,
Yes, there is an AI player.
which can we just say bad timing? like
Yeah, not
like
great.
read the room, man. And it's a little weird. I enjoy The Circle, and Love Is Blind I finished already. I think that's like the big stuff I'm getting. I'm also catching up on a ton of TV. I'm almost done with Shogun, and I just wrapped Fargo, which I think
Nice.
is in the middle of all the seasons. Not as good as
Oh, really?
definitely not as good as one, which is the best.
No, one is the best.
And I
but
think I like the Kirsten year better.
Kirsten Year was really good.
Yeah, I like that year, and that's like divisive. I don't like the Chris Rock year. That's the worst one.
I think that's generally agreed
Yeah.
that's why they needed to reboot
Yeah.
and that's why they came back so strong was
Yeah.
realizing no more contemporary makes more sense.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, I'm going to do The Way Home because I just binged 2 seasons in 3 days.
So it's all in your head right now.
It's all in my head
Yeah.
right now.
And Blue Bloods.
But also was behind on some of my broadcast shows. So Blue Bloods and Fire Country, caught up on those last night. Both excellent per
Blue
usual.
Bloods final season.
Yes, but they're splitting it into 2. So the second half is going to be in the fall.
Okay.
Doesn't really count.
God.
I'm watching The Sympathizer.
Oh,
Love
fun.
that. And Under the Bridge, which is really good. I'm also watching Bluey. Bluey I just love because it's like it's my non-work. Like I can watch it
Yeah.
and like not have anything. I'm not thinking about work when I'm watching it.
Yeah, that's a relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always a relief.
No, that's a good one. I think we're going to need more Bluey this
Yeah.
year in our
Like,
lives.
Honestly,
Yours.
it's like
Sympathizer as well, which I'm really enjoying. I think they really did a great job on that. And then the one that, funny enough, months ago, my wife Maria was watching Platonic, and because I was so busy, like I would like catch like glimpses, and I'd be like, "That looks like a fun show." Like I'm bummed that I'm not watching it with her. Like it kind of felt like left out, almost like she was having a great experience and I wasn't there. So because I had Seth Rogen on the podcast, I finally went back and watched it properly, and she was up for watching it again with me, and I'm so glad I did. That's probably some of the most fun I've had just watching a comedy recently, because it's just straight up, I love me a good dramatic comedy. I mentioned Res Dogs, and there's a lot of great dramatic comedies out there, but between Hacks Season 3, which also just balls out funny, and then Platonic, which is so funny, but also so relatable as a middle-aged person who is, also figuring out the world. It's just really the right show at the right time. So if you haven't seen Platonic yet, I recommend it. It's really strong.
Who'd have thunk that Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne just make magic together all the time?
They're so good together, and just that the comedy, like the subtle comedy, it's just they're fantastic.
Rose Byrne is a hilarious woman. I think she's one of the most
so funny.
underutilized comedians in our biz.
Yeah,
she's very good.
Yeah, and so relatable in this show too. So go back and watch that. So
and then Couples Therapy, you can binge it on many different networks. I had it May 31st. It's great.
All right.
With that,
well, that's it for this week. Next week we'll get into some categories. So see y'all then.
Bye.
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 After the break, we talk to the supporting stars behind HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm. From Los Angeles, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. And we're back. It's the Variety Award Circuit Podcast, and I'm Michael Schneider. Larry David had one last round of disagreements, feuds, and outbursts this season on Curb Your Enthusiasm. And as the hit HBO series ended its run last month, it went out with not only a bang, but with a callback to the end of David's previous TV triumph, Seinfeld. Earlier in the season, Larry gave water to Auntie Ray while in line to vote in Atlanta, which crazily enough violates state law. Larry's crew is now in Atlanta for the trial, including Cheryl, played by Cheryl Hines, and Ted Danson, playing himself, Jeff, played by Jeff Garlin, and Susie, played by Susie Essman, and Leon, played by J.B. Smoove, along with Richard Lewis playing himself. It's no surprise Larry rubs everyone the wrong way, including the jury, and although he ought to be exonerated, the jury learns just how disliked he really is, and in shades of the infamous finale of Seinfeld, which David co-created, he's sentenced to prison time. But then here's how it all differs. Jerry Seinfeld springs Larry out of jail after he discovers a juror broke his sequester, causing a mistrial and the sentence being thrown out. The duo then have a meta conversation about the Seinfeld finale.
Somebody's here to see you.
All right, Chuckles, let's get you out of here.
What? What are you talking about?
It's over.
It's over.
You're a free man.
I'm a free man.
That's right.
How am I a free man?
I'll tell you how. You know that Mexican restaurant near the hotel? I go there to get something to eat. I don't even like Mexican food.
That's okay. I won't tell anybody.
Why do I care?
Well, some people care.
Really?
Yeah.
Anyway, there's this guy there. Looks like Joe Pesci. So I go up to him, talking to him. I go, you really look like Pesci from Goodfellas.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, what am I, a clown for you? I go, it's a Pesci line.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He doesn't like that too much.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, today in the courtroom, I look in the jury box. That's that guy. Same guy. The hair. Pesci.
Yeah, that's the guy in the jury.
Yeah.
I know that guy. They're the big
With the hair.
Pompadour. Yeah.
He's not supposed to be in a Mexican restaurant because he's under sequester.
He broke his sequester?
Broke his sequester.
He's supposed to sequester.
He's supposed to sequester.
He's a bad sequesterer.
You can't not sequester when
Yeah,
you're supposed to
you
sequester.
should be sequestering.
Yeah. I tell the judge. Judge calls the restaurant. They look at the security footage. Mistrial declared. Sentence thrown out. You're done. How about that, sport fans? You don't want to end up like this. Nobody wants to see it. Trust me. Breathe the free air, young man.
Oh, my God. This is how we should have ended the finale.
Oh, my God, you're right. How did we not think of that?
I recently sat down with Jeff Garlin, Susie Essman, J.B. Smoove, and Cheryl Hines to talk about why they think this is truly the end of Curb. Our talk touches on the death of the series' Richard Lewis and Bob Einstein, as well as how their process in improv changed over the years on the show. It's a wide-ranging conversation, which is why you shouldn't be surprised that we began by talking about Hollywood party swag, like the cool bag that JB was carrying.
But you know what's really lame, and it's like such a asshole thing to say, is when the swag bag just completely sucks, and your attitude is, "What am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
Who do I give this to? How do
Housekeeper.
Yeah.
So many bags.
Yeah, Holly has gotten so much stuff from me for the past 3 years.
That's
That's
nice.
my assistant. I just give her not only gift bags, I give her couches. I give her everything because I feel like an idiot selling it on eBay or something like that.
Did someone swag you a couch?
No, I'm not talking about just swag. I'm
Okay.
talking about, I give her stuff, tables and all sorts of stuff.
Here's an HBO branded couch.
We get things all the time.
HBO gives great.
People give you too much stuff sometimes.
No, but HBO gives great gifts and stuff.
Last year we got a bicycle.
Oh, so you
A
got
really cool bicycle.
that red bicycle. That is so
yeah,
badass a gift. It's like this old Schwinn, but it's new. Do you know that when I was a kid, that was my dream bike?
Well,
And
now
I-
you have it.
I know. It
With your
thrilled
name
me.
on it.
You know where it sits? In my dining room.
Okay, I guess
Garage.
it's not getting a lot of use.
Yeah, no, I'm never going to ride it.
Well, you can't ride in your neighborhood anyway.
Yeah,
I
but
could
by the way,
ride.
I'll ride mine.
By the way, I can ride a
Are we
regular bike.
recording?
We're going to start now.
Okay.
Oh,
Actually,
no. Why didn't you start then?
gold.
we are recording, by the way, so we
So
can.
then you should use this.
It's gold.
No, I'm insisting that
I
you
will
can
u-
do a fake start now, but you include all that was discussed.
Absolutely. We just jump right in. JB, let me hear you real quick. 'cause
1,
I
2,
think-
1, 2.
Let's bring that mic down a little bit for you.
Ooh, right there.
There
If
we
you're,
go.
it's your business if you want to cut that. I like the way he adjusted his mic.
Looks good.
Yeah, bow. Bow.
JB has the best hats in the business,
Tell you something.
right?
Tell him about your wall.
I got a hat wall full of adorable hats. They all have different personalities. Some are like arrogant. Some are conceited. Some are sexy. Some are funny. Some are overbearing. They all have something. Some are needy. Oh, then
Hold on.
needy hats
Which one
I
is
hate.
which is the most you?
The conceited one.
That's the needy hat.
needy hat.
That's my favorite hat. He knows it's my favorite hat. So sometimes I'll put him with things that don't even match because he's just so needy.
What
What's
color
a
is that?
conceited
What's-
man?
It's my favorite. It's the hat that fits perfectly
Ah.
in the wind. It just stays there. It don't go. It just fits my head perfectly.
And
'cause-
why is it needy?
Because it fits too good.
I see.
It just fits so
Yeah.
good that I don't have to worry about it blowing off my head. Because when you wear a hat, it adjusts to you. As you sweat, the hat expands a little bit, and wherever you put it at, that's where it's going to stay forever.
And it's also different if you have hair underneath.
Yeah,
have hair.
I always panic 20 minutes into wearing a hat where I'm like, oh boy, I shouldn't be wearing this hat, and then it's too late.
But Cheryl,
Then you're
I
stuck with
really
the-
have the problem.
Yeah, you. That's not cute.
With
if
curly
you take your
hair.
hat off.
curly hair, yeah.
This is the kind of things we talk about.
Nothing.
By the way, in all sincerity,
This is real life again.
Every topic is like we'll sit around and we'll just start talking about hats.
You would look
and
good in
I'll
a
be
bowler.
doing a deep
Yeah,
dive
I wear hats a lot.
on why he has a hat that's conceited.
So are you all
I don't
going,
have a bowler,
going
no.
to do a podcast together
Yeah.
at some point?
Susie and I are doing a
Yeah.
podcast, The History
That's
of
right,
Yeah.
the history of
Yeah.
Curb. Yeah,
And-
yeah.
and these young
and then
people-
these two
Cheryl's
are,
been on. JB has not been on yet
he-
because he
he
hasn't been on yet.
She hasn't been
We
on the
haven't
show
gotten
yet.
to
We're
his,
doing
his
episode by
season yet.
But
episode.
Cheryl will be on again. Larry will be on again. JB will be on a few. It's like just us hanging out. It's fun.
That's real quick. And then you have to decide, is JB going to be bringing his conceited hat today? Or
That's
I
up
will-
to him.
Hold on. No,
That's up to him to
no,
decide.
Susie, I will demand it. I'm going to demand to see the conceited hat.
I give all power to JB to decide.
Well, so what's nice is that this is going to allow you all to continue to see each other and to continue sort of the spirit of Curb, right? Because is this really the end?
I would say yes.
Oh, really?
I definitely would say yes. There's no doubt in my mind that this is the end.
But
And also,
let me ask
if we did more episodes, I would be thrilled to do it. If we do a movie, I have no desire. This is perfect in short form. It is perfect for short form, and Larry David is a genius with whatever he wants to do.
But especially in 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes. And sometimes we go over a bit, like the
Oh, yeah,
last
sure, of
episode.
course.
But no, this is you don't go out of go out of your lane. Our show is a half-hour show, and that's to make it a 90-minute. It would fall apart.
I think Larry has proved himself as the genius of half hour many times over.
Yeah.
Between Seinfeld and Curb, I mean, you don't get better than that. And the fact that he followed up the most successful show in the history of television with Seinfeld with Curb, which is even, in my mind, more iconic, is amazing.
And with that ending and sort of echoing the end of Seinfeld, my idea now would be eventually in a couple of years, Jeff Schaffer does his own show. And then eventually on that show, he creates a Curb Your Enthusiasm reunion.
Oh
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
And it becomes
Jeff
Inception.
Schaefer's going to be the star of the show?
Yeah.
He would never
No. He would never be on camera.
And by the way, can I also say, he would never be on camera, but I defy somebody to find a funnier person than him.
Yeah, but he's
God.
not an
He's so
on-camera
funny.
guy.
He's not an on-camera guy. I've actually asked him to go on stage with me, and we do these. I'll throw something at him, and he'll make it funnier, and we go back and forth. But he's hesitant to even go on stage with me to do that for fun.
That was just my idea to reverse engineer
No, I think
some
it's
sort
really
of
fun.
Curb.
I like
but,
that idea.
But here's where
I
I'll
like
go
that
with
idea.
that. He could write something that we're all on without him being on camera and direct it
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there you
and
go.
produce it.
Yeah.
So good. Oh my gosh. He can punch up something so fast.
No, he's
And
brilliantly funny.
Like Jeff said, when you go back and forth with him before you go back to the scene, you come up with like 3 or 4 beats there that are so damn funny that it just builds before you go back on camera. You're like, damn, that's funny.
And the complete opposite of that in terms of I will tell him useless things to use on camera. Like I'll say, did you ever meet my sister Gladys? And he will have a reply that's hysterical, which allows me to say something. I'm just trying to feed him because I can't wait for what he's going to say next. And
Yeah.
he always, yes, I met her. He just is so quick.
He's so fast.
And by the way, may I say that he holds the show together?
Well, yeah, he definitely, especially, he directs almost every episode. There's occasionally somebody else, but we shoot a lot in the past few seasons, and I think it started because of COVID. We shot so much out of sequence, and he would keep it in his head, where we are and what episode and what scene and what. I mean, just amazing. He holds the whole thing together.
I was going to say, because most shows, when they do like that block shooting, at least you have this massive script, everyone knows exactly what they're shooting at what time. And you have your outline, but it's kind of on you and to figure out what you're doing and how you're motivating and what your joke was before that can kind of play into now. That's insane to me. How do you guys do that?
One time last season, not season 12, season 11, we were shooting in our house, mine and Jeff's house. I did 5 different episodes in one day because they had location difficulties because of COVID. So we had that location. We had to shoot everything. I did 5 different episodes in one day, scenes from 5 different episodes in one day. And
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And
Maybe I did that day and I forgot.
Yeah,
Wow.
but it was insane.
That is insane. I only read the outlines for the show. When do they come out? Like 3 months before? 2 months
whenever
before? That's the last time I read it.
Yeah.
Last time. I literally, no exaggeration, go to set, put on whatever my wardrobe is, walk to set, and I walk up to Jeff Schaffer and I go, what do I do? And he will tell me what the scene's about, what my responsibilities are in the scene, and that's what keeps it fresh for me. I don't know till the moment I step on the set what I'm going to do.
And I'm the opposite of that. The night before, I read the outline because I want to know exactly what we're doing the next day.
Yeah. How about
just so I could have it in my head and know what the scenes needs.
JB and Cheryl, what are your philosophies on how to do this?
The first 3 seasons, I did not even see an outline.
You weren't allowed to see
I wasn't allowed.
Neither was I.
Yeah.
And so that was the joke. Is when I got to hair and makeup, I'd say, "What can anybody tell me what this show is about?" And they'd say no. And then I finally talked Larry into letting me read an outline.
Well, you broke the door open because, but it's not a lot of people, but nonetheless, yes, he lets you guys.
Yeah.
That's been a long time.
Well, for a long time, he didn't let the guest stars read the outline.
Oh, no, and then now he lets them read.
lets them, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I usually am the same as Jeff. I will read it when it comes out, when he sends it to me first. And then I don't think about it. because I did promise Larry, I will never think ahead about what I'm going to say.
Right.
And thank goodness that I did ask to read the outlines, because it seemed like the next episode I saw, it said Cheryl's in a bathing suit on the beach with Larry fully clothed. And I was thinking, these guys would not even tell me this until, I don't know, 3 days before when I'm doing a fitting.
Well, it's always, which is one of my favorite words.
It's always, Cheryl, it's
And
always.
I directed that episode.
Oh, my
And I
God.
said, how funny is it that you're wearing a bikini, which was one of my favorite words.
And I was wearing,
But it's always when you read the outlines, it's always, you're always, I guess this season I'm having vaginal rejuvenation surgery. I guess this season
That
I'm
scene
doing.
with you and Trey- Hold
But
on,
I'm just
that
saying, you never
scene-
know. It's like,
You never know.
That scene-
we get them, and it's just like, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing this season.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments from working on Curb all the years is watching you and Tracy Ullman talk about the vagina rejuvenation, the two of you. And I was standing right behind one of our cameramen. I don't know which, but I was watching it. I was probably 4 feet away, 6 feet away, and I'm watching these two brilliant women just talking about vagina rejuvenation. And I was like, I wanted to scream, thank you. It was so beautiful. It was a work of art for sure.
JB, you always have these lines. These you sum up things, I think, probably better than anyone else. Like, are you allowed to sort of at least look at the outlines to come up with some of these phrases that Leon comes up with?
I don't even look at them.
No.
I actually just check the temperature of what's going on, figure out the best route to get there. I'm like a navigation,
He's
I'm
a
a GPS. I get to where I got to go. Sometimes I take the long way, just to like make it interesting. I'll take the long way because I find it to be the funniest route to go is to keep building something silly and making sense of it.
But the stuff, if you're funny like JB, that stuff just comes to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But one of the
a long
things-
story. I think
Go
a
ahead,
short story long, basically. Not I'm the other way around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's the other way around.
I think I could speak for all of us when I say the beauty of the outlines and working with Larry is that it frees us in a way because we know if Larry and Jeff came up with the premise, came up with the storyline, it's going to be funny. So we don't have to think about being funny.
Yeah.
We just have to think about being in the scene
Being the character
and who
and
our
being
characters
present.
are and what our relationships are. And you don't have to think about trying to be funny because they set it up in such a way that you can't help but be funny if you're true to the scene.
Right.
The
I never
moment
even
you-
asked. I'm sorry. I never even asked if there was an outline. I just never. I
just came to play.
just assumed I never got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I never.
yeah.
But I never thought
Well,
about
but
it.
all of us,
I
even
never
though
thought
Susie
about it.
reads it the night before, our style is naturalistic. That's
I
our
don't
approach.
plan ahead. I just read it.
but
I like to
but
know.
it is really naturalistic. So JB will walk into the scene, not really, well, what's going on? Okay. And then I watch him. It's like watching a car swerve in different directions, but it gets to the point, and the point is hilarious. But watching him go on his path is unbelievable.
Yeah. I feel like you're keeping Larry on his toes.
Yeah. Oh, we are not. We are not. He is. Because sometimes we surprise him, but we have a different responsibility than he does.
Yeah.
And he is always keeping Larry on his toes. Larry doesn't know what to, Larry argues with her. He knows he's going to laugh.
Yeah.
He knows Susie's going to, because the thing about Susie, which we didn't discuss last night, which makes things funny, is just that, hi, Larry, and talking conversation. The one moment that she is upset by, get the fuck out of my house. Oh, and how can Larry David not
That
laugh
was
at that?
one of the things I wanted to talk about is because I love like the relationship between Susie and Larry, where after all of their history, Susie still seems kind of happy to see Larry when
Hey,
he's
lad,
at
you
the
want to
house.
come to a dinner party tonight?
Yeah. It always starts at this like sort of like they're friends, and then that moment where it quickly turns.
You know how I think of it really? I think of it like siblings. When you have siblings, when you're little, not when you're older. When you're older, it changes. But when you're little, you're fighting and this and that. And then the next minute, you're all playing
Right.
and eating. And that's how I think of my relationship with Larry on the show.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing too, by the way. But when Susie, hold on, I had a point. and a thing, and I forgot. Oh, also her character, remember, is married to my character, and I'm his manager and his best friend. That is hard for her to say he can't come to the house anymore.
That's
Although
right,
your kid
because
could do it.
well, but because he we make money off him.
Yeah.
And Susie Green likes her
Right.
Yeah.
she likes her
designers.
clothes and
It's
her
always-
jewelry
the truth
and
is,
Her business.
there's two things of Larry arriving on the scene with Susie. There's two. Either it's, hey, Larry, and friendly, and then the punch comes out of nowhere, and it's always a home run.
Yeah.
Or Larry and I together have done something.
Scheming.
that she knows there's something going on, or she knows exactly what's been going on, and she will gradually lose her shit at us. She builds on that. She builds. See, there's one version where it's like, boom, and the other one is investigating, and then losing her shit.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
one of Larry's favorite things though is when Cheryl and I gang up on him.
Oh,
He
by
loves
the
when
way,
Cheryl and I
I
gang
can't
up on him.
stand that.
that is awesome.
He loves that.
It is really awesome.
Well, and Cheryl, I'm curious. I mean, how did your approach to Cheryl change after the two characters got divorced and she didn't have to put up with this shit anymore?
Yeah. Well, I guess I didn't have to know the details of what idiotic thing he did because the first, several years, like I said, I didn't even know what else was shot in the show. So he would come in and say, I don't know, I just complimented a boy on his penis size or something. And I'd say, that's why. Why? Why? And it's mortifying. And I needed to know what was going on and who was there. And then after we got divorced, it was more of like, I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
I'm
this
sure,
is-
I'm
I
sure
always
you
feel
said
like
that.
there should be a drinking game of Cheryl saying, "Okay."
But, Susie and I are,
Okay.
for the podcast, are rewatching episodes, and Cheryl is so consistent in her role of really taming the tiger and also putting the tiger back in its cage. And we watch it and go, look at this. It's kind of amazing,
It's interesting with the four of us here because we all play such different roles. It's
in his life.
In Larry. I mean, Larry is the protagonist, and we all play such different roles in how he functions in the world and how he uses each of us in that world.
He actually sent me a beautiful note after we're done filming, and I was honored by it, and it is true. He goes, somebody had to lay the pipe, and you did it beautifully, which means, set up put him in a
Information.
situation that he's going to fuck up and might piss off her, He'll have a reaction of like, what, why would you do that? And then he'll go on his thing.
Yeah.
I know my job on the show is to put the
set
show.
up.
I'm the guy who hits the domino, and the domino goes in the different directions. And Larry is the dominoes, and they're all the turns at the dominoes, the adventures.
Wow.
I think a good thing about Leon and Larry is, their relationship with Larry is different because they're the same world. Leon's in a whole different world.
Oh boy.
Whole different experiences that he has, that he brags about, things he's done. And Larry's not privy to that stuff. And he's being introduced to someone who's a different race, different background, all these different things that he doesn't even know half that shit even exist. He's hearing things from Leon that he would never experience if Leon wasn't telling
The
him
porn constipated.
everything. He would never even know any of this stuff is real.
Yeah.
But why he's a great improviser, though,
Yeah.
is because he does the thing that you're supposed to, which is ask you questions about what he's just heard.
A question in a question. Yeah.
Well, in many ways, Leon is so much more inappropriate than Larry ever is, but Larry gets all of the guff.
Right. And always say Leon gives Larry good, bad advice. And that's the way I see it because
It's a perfect explanation.
it sounds brilliant coming out of Leon's mouth that this is going to work and this is how you do things. But it's not, And I think that's what leads to, we're comics. We know how callbacks work. Callbacks, this show is almost like it's being written while you're doing it.
Well, it is.
It's the funniest thing. Yeah, it's not almost like it, but it
But
is.
you have to be present.
Yeah, those callbacks become storylines.
Yeah.
Like remember when the accidental
text on purpose.
butt dial on purpose.
Yeah.
Was it that butt dial?
No,
Was it
accidental text on purpose.
accidental text on purpose? That is so silly, but it makes sense.
I don't think it actually works, by the way.
Well,
I
it's like the
think-
dream scheme. Same thing.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah, and those are things that make the show golden to me. Is these little nuances in life that you have to adjust to make what you're doing make sense,
That
or
we
to make
all relate to.
make
Yeah.
Larry's wild personality make sense in his own head.
And you can see when Larry's listening to him, the moment Larry crosses the line and goes, I'm going to try that.
But it makes me wonder about how many husbands or wives or who have couples were watching the dream scheme and thinking, "Ooh, I'm going to try that one."
That's not a bad idea.
Well, Tevye did it
Tevye
in the
did it.
Fiddler on the Roof with the Frumacera.
Yeah.
The stuff he comes up with is like, like sometimes he'll give me early. He'll say like, let's just say like months before we shoot, like, I'll see him at an event or whatever. He said, I got some good stuff for you this season. Like when he came up with the how much smarter I look with glasses.
Glasses.
That was the funniest damn thing.
Hilarious.
We was talking about the noodle, about trying to stick a noodle in a woman. I said, you can't stick a noodle in a woman, and he was like, most of the time you say some really ridiculous stuff, but with those glasses on, you almost look like you know what you're talking about. I thought the glasses one was like
That was
the
season
funniest
8.
episodes. Oh my god!
I like that you all have your Larry impersonations.
Yeah.
So you've all perfected. Who does the best Larry?
I don't know. Jeff does a good one.
Pretty good.
Well, I do a characterization of Larry, and he actually loves it.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What do you mean?
Jeff did it.
I always, this is the key to it. Is,
Yeah.
and then
But
he
Jeff also, I have to say, did a great impression of our dearly departed Bob Einstein.
Oh my gosh!
Great impression.
When I was sitting next to him, I could make it exact.
Yeah.
For whatever, I can do Adam West and Bob Einstein and make it exact.
Yeah, I mean, he had a very specific style.
Listen to me.
Man, that dude was something else.
Yeah,
By
we
the way,
miss him.
my favorite things were, forget what he said on camera. He called Susie and I both after every day. Wasn't that great? Wasn't that great? Can you believe it? How many times you get that phone call?
Thousands.
Yeah. What? Can you believe that? Well,
From
fucking
him,
miss
I would get
so
the phone
much.
calls, and from Lewis, I would get the emails and the texts.
Oh my gosh!
Crazy.
I love that dude so much. My first season on Curb, after the season was over, I can't remember if the season was over or if he watched the episodes, but he called me.
You talking about Lewis or Einstein?
Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Lewis. He called me he got the number from production and called me. And literally, it was crazy because he's one of my idols. I freaking love this dude. I used to listen to him and Howard Stern on AM radio. My first after-school job I had, and I worked at a perfume company. And I would
Now, how is this not known by me?
Oh, I've
You
done
worked at
everything.
a perfume
I'm so
company.
worldly, it's unbelievable.
I
I've
love
done
you're still
so many
learning things.
Now I look like I could work at a perfume shop. But back
Yes.
then, you would never guess I worked at a
No,
perfume
you look
shop.
like you own a perfume shop.
Right
You don't
now,
work there.
I own one. But so I would pack and fill bottles and all this stuff. I ran a shipping department, and I would have a little AM radio. I would turn it real low. That's when Howard Stern was on AM radio. Richard was always on the show. I said, "This dude is a genius, man." And I started watching all his stand up, and man, literally, he called me, and I let him talk for easily 2 hours. I let him just go. I let him know. I didn't have any reason to stop him because that's Richard Lewis.
Yeah.
I said, let him talk. You know what I mean?
By the way, he used to leave messages
Oh,
for
my
like
God.
45 minutes to an hour on your answering machine.
Easily.
I'm not exaggerating.
No, easily, yeah.
I'm not
If
exaggerating.
he was talking to you on the phone and he got a big laugh out of you, he would hang up.
Yeah.
Because he knew.
No, that was
Yeah.
consistent. He hung up.
But
He hung up.
in his phone call and in his voice messages, he would almost like talk he would say stuff, a lot of stuff, but somewhere in there, he's gonna say, who am I? You don't gotta listen to me. But he keeps going. Yeah, wait a minute. Wait, what is it? Do I listen to you, or do I stop this voice message, or do I hang the phone up on you? Because he talks himself out of talking to you. At the same time, he's talking to you. So you don't know whether he wants to get off the phone or if he wants to keep talking. So you don't know. Yeah. So should I agree with him? Get off the phone or let him go?
It's so really funny. Difficult when you lose two distinct original voices who are also the best guys. That both of them, Richard was towards the end,
and luckily Richard was able to do this season, which was iffy,
And by the way, though, this season was his best work.
He did incredible work, and what was so poignant about his work this season is you could see the comedic brain was working beautifully, but his body betrayed him, and he couldn't get it out in the same way, in the same rhythm that he used to be able to get it out. It was hard to watch and beautiful to watch at the same time.
A gift that there's as much as we have of Lewis in this final season, and also so poignant when he talks about death and he.
On the golf course, I was in that scene, but I wasn't in the main shot with the two of them. Yeah. And watching them do this, I thought two things: this is hysterical. This is dark. This is hysterical because it was so funny and it was so them. I could see Richard asking him that. It was perfection. And so to me, Richard had so many great moments this year. And to go out like that and he's part of it, I wish Bob could have been part of it too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was not well. Clearly, you could see he was not well from seeing the past couple of seasons. But he wasn't dying. So his death was a shock to all of us. You know, he died of a heart attack, and it was really shocking to all of us.
It was. Not unexpected, but shocking, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it was important to Larry that Richard was on this season.
Yeah, I agree.
He worked really hard to make sure that Richard was
to accommodate.
Yeah. I thought that was really sweet. Really sweet.
I know he thought this, that Parkinson's wasn't going to get him, that he would just fade away, that it wouldn't be, he'd still be alive. But what he did was, which was the most beautiful thing, and he loved that I love this. I laughed so hard when he did this. Anyone who came up and said a compliment to him, he would go, Parkinson's. Like he's coughing, like Parkinson's is the reason that they're saying it. And I saw it happen at least a dozen times, and I laughed every time when he did it. He would actually do it and then look at me. Parkinson's.
But back to what Cheryl was saying about Larry was very happy. The thing about Larry is he is incredibly loyal. Yeah. There was no way.
You've always said
even that. when Bobby Einstein was I guess it was season 10. He was on season 9. It was season 10, and he kept on saying, "Well, I'm going to get better. I'm going to be able to come back." And Larry and Jeff Schaffer pushed off all his scenes till. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Yeah. He died, but they were pushing off all his scenes, waiting for him, waiting for him.
He wasn't supposed to die. It came upon him. We found out.
I know, but I'm just saying that they were. No, I'm not. They were accommodate. They were bending over backwards, changing the whole schedule to try to accommodate him, and that's what Larry's like. He's incredibly loyal.
And also, I have to say that when Bob died and didn't come back, it affected everything.
Sure.
Think of our lunches where Larry just would leave the table. And you knew why. We were talking about Bob. He would just leave the table. He was so upset and angry. He actually was angry. Yeah. Same with Richard. His reaction was, he had a quote about Richard, about him being so angry at him.
And, when Bob died, as Jeff said, he was such a singular, unique voice and completely not replaceable. Vince came on, and Vince is amazing. Vince is one of the best, as Freddie Funkhauser, one of the best improvisers there is. But it doesn't replace Bob. It's just another layer. Yeah. It just adds a different layer.
Yeah, he couldn't replace Bob.
Nobody can replace
unique.
Bob. That's right. It's
and
such
Vince
an original.
Is unique at what he does because you couldn't replace Vince if he was doing.
And that kind of brings up an interesting question of I've always been intrigued by sometimes celebrities play themselves and sometimes they don't. And it's always so confusing.
Yeah. It is confusing.
But they really never play themselves. Ted Danson is Ted Danson. That's not Ted Danson.
I know, but to call him Ted Danson on the show, and then you have somebody else like Vince Vaughn
Right.
comes on the show, and you're looking at him and you're thinking,
But he's
that's
Freddie
Vince Vaughn.
Funkhauser.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But why
And-
isn't
and-
he just?
Yeah, and
But
you wonder,
Clive Owen is Clive Owen and John Hamm is John Hamm. But they're not really
don't
like
know
that.
right. But,
Yeah, but why that choice?
But nonetheless, in the Curb universe, is there a Vince Vaughn in real life? And does Freddie Funkhauser just look like Vince Vaughn?
Right.
How
This
does
is
this
a good
work?
question. This is a question for Larry. It is strange that he does that.
But Ted
I found that
Danson,
strange.
I can tell you what scene it was specifically. The one I had, because I was bald that season, and when the thing happened, I had hair. We filmed outside of it was called the Paley Museum of Broadcasting. It's now just an art museum type thing. In
That was
Beverly Hills.
season 6.
That was season 6. Okay. So Ted and I are walking back to his trailer, my trailer, and we're talking about it. And he doesn't realize that he's the cad. That he doesn't think it hasn't struck him that he's giving Larry like the easiest home run softball pitches of him making fun of Ted. And then Ted, once he knew that, dove in.
Oh, he leaned into
But
it this season.
He
yeah.
was shocked. I'm not even kidding you. He was like, "What? That's not true." I go, "It's true."
American Treasure.
But there's
Ted
also
Danson?
repercussions because when Ted divorces Mary in the show and starts going out with Cheryl, people were coming up to him in the street upset that he and Mary, who are still together and very much in love, and
couple
were-
goals, yeah.
yeah,
But
and
by the way, it
Couple
really
goals.
upset him.
it
when
did
people
upset him
I
that people were thinking that he and Mary really
hilarious.
split up.
I
So
know.
there's, it's crazy.
Larry.
Well, that's the age-old problem of being an actor, right? Is everyone thinks you're your character now. Three of you play a character with your same name.
Yeah.
Right.
So it
Not
must
me.
be especially
First name.
First
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
It must be especially tough to just be out there in the world because everyone really, really thinks you're your
Well, I
character.
think early on they would ask me if I'm his real manager. Are you his manager? Stuff
Yeah.
like that. I
And
don't
people
think
have asked
anyone
if
knows.
Jeff and I are really married. They've asked if Cheryl and Larry are really married, And I just take that as a compliment
Most
because
certainly,
we're so
yes.
convincing.
But
that's how you guys play it, and that was my thing. I came on in season 6, so I'm meeting these people who I watched on TV, who I love the show, but there's also different levels. There's the people on the show that I fell in love with watching Curb, but then there's these amazing people who I followed. Ted Danson, Cheers. Bob, Super Dave.
Yeah.
Richard Lewis on my radio on Howard Stern show. These are all people, like, you show up on a show like this, you don't even know how to separate yourself from working with them and being in awe. You're like, holy shit, I'm working with freaking Ted Danson. I'm working with Bob. I'm working with this.
Springsteen.
I'm working with all these
Springsteen
people who I've been watching forever.
first time
But now they're all in one place.
The first time
Not in.
I did JB, the first time I did a scene with Ted, which we were testing out Ted's chef, is the first time I was with Larry and I. And there
Season
was
3.
one moment where I was sitting at that table not thinking about, that's fucking Ted Danson. You're doing a scene with Ted Danson. Oh my God, Ted. I repeated it, I swear.
Well, you don't think that anymore.
No, he's my
Yeah,
pal.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love him
Right.
dearly. But back then, I was in awe that I was doing. And Springsteen turned out to be everything positive that I could imagine he was.
Yeah, he was great.
He was so, and I got so much time to just hang with
Yeah.
him.
So, and he really came up with floor fucker?
No.
No? Okay. I thought that he had.
I
was going to give Springsteen credit, but okay.
Well, by the way, Susie, Larry, and Jeff Schaefer have been out there going, no, he made up the thing, because I made it up.
Okay.
And I whispered in his ear, this next one, because it was the end of the scene, but they put it in the middle of the scene. They moved it around, in the show.
Yeah.
But it's the other thing I go, just when you feel the scene's ending, if you get a feeling, just take a beat and then say that you never thought of him as a floor. And he did it, and it got a huge thing. But I didn't stand up
But
and
the
go,
poor guy is
"Everybody,
haunted
I
by
wrote
it now."
Everybody, I wrote
He calls him-
it. So no one knew that I wrote that.
But this poor man has a brilliant career for 50-something years, whatever it is. And he was at the Forum a couple of weeks ago, and people are holding up posters
I saw
saying
that.
floor fucker. So here he's one day with us, and he's haunted.
And his career has been
By the
altered
way,
forever.
He signed a Fender custom shop a 53 Telecaster, which has the Blackguard, which is exactly what he plays. And you know what he signed it to me? To my favorite floor fucker.
Hilarious.
Whatever. And it was really big. And I got to get that, covered so it doesn't fade.
So I'm impressed that Susie is sort of the show historian. I mean, you remember exactly what season these events happened. I mean, obviously, I know because you've been doing the podcast that you've been sort of boning up.
Even before that, I just have that kind of sick brain.
Our podcast is me interrupting her, telling every fact known to man about the thing. But I interrupt. My mind, ADHD. But by the way, I have an answer to that. Did you know that? I worked it out. I figured out I'm going to have a pad of paper in front of me and just write down what it is I want to talk about while you're talking and not have to interrupt.
That's very, very smart.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how that goes.
By the way, I say by the way too much. And you told me it's a tick. So I have down there in big letters, I'll have on my pad, by the way, to remind me, don't say by the way, and to write down things so I can be, because an ADD person, I know we're going off the thing, an ADD person cannot wait until you finish because they will have forgotten what they wanted you to say.
Right, because your mind is going a million miles an hour.
Yeah. And so it's this thing that I have to work through where I have to figure it out. And now I know I figured it out, which will be starting with season 6, I believe, when we record again. Yeah, the season we've been talking about.
Crazy.
That's when JB comes on.
Yeah.
The big
And also, JB, I mean, he came on in season 6 as part of the Black family, but he's the only one that stayed for the next 7 seasons.
Oh, no. Annie Ray.
I never knew.
Well, yes, she came back, but she didn't really stay consecutively.
Yeah, but JB,
I never knew that story. I never knew what the plan was. I just
None of us did, JB.
And isn't that something? That's how things kind of, went.
So you never really knew, like, how long is Leon going to stay at this house?
Just this season. I'm thinking this season. You come in, it's a storyline.
I don't think Larry knew till afterwards that you were, till the end of the season that you were coming. But, none of us knew from season to season if the show was coming back. I mean, you guys had contract. I never knew from season to season in the beginning if I was coming back, I had no contract.
Well, and there was that long gap where I'm
6
sure
years.
you all assumed
6 years,
it's just over.
I don't assume anything except this season I know is the last.
It just feels
but
different.
Outside of that, all the times he left, I always thought there was a strong possibility we'd be back.
Yeah.
But even a strong possibility,
I feel this is definitive.
What's that?
It's definitive this season.
Oh, definitive.
Yeah.
And it ended the perfect way.
The finale I thought was pure perfection.
Yeah.
Everything.
But just Seinfeld saying the line, nobody wants to see that.
No.
Is just perfect.
But also what Larry and Jeff did in this final episode, and if you read it, you saw the outline, how they were very careful to make sure to give all of us something special. Yeah. They wanted to make sure that all of us shone in the finale. Yeah. And
I didn't realize till after the season how much stuff I had. Because when I'm doing them, I'm like, because I don't get an occasion. I mean, usually once an episode I get to do something really funny. But like I said, I lay the pipe. But I was actually shocked that happened this year. And my favorite thing was calling her about the salad dressing.
Well, that's the thing that you were given.
So
it was
funny.
everybody had their own little thing. And I also think that it was a very conscious thing not to end in the jail with Larry and Jerry, to end with the family, to end with all of us.
Yeah.
That was a perfect ending.
Can I tell you, because I know that I knew that we shot that scene right on the plane, but I had not seen the show, the finale, and I was watching it with my family, and I said, there's a possibility that they're going to make this plane crash and we're all going to die in the plane crash. I said, that seems like that's what's going to happen.
By the
Never
way,
occurred to me,
the
Cheryl.
No, I kept thinking they shot
By the
an
way,
ending that I don't know
that's
about.
South Park. South Park would do that for sure.
Well, by
I
the way,
love South Park.
Schaefer said we considered it. Just
Well, you have to.
And then he said, but nobody wants to see that. But
Well,
says
that
something
would have shut down the reboot
Yes,
talks. At
that's
least
true.
they would have never have had to answer
true.
whether or not the show was coming
Well,
back.
that would be.
I did when all the press that I did before the finale aired, and people would ask me the same question, are you sure it's over? And I would say, well, none of us die in the end, so it is feasible that we're coming back, but I don't think we are.
You didn't get in trouble for saying that.
No, not that I
What are
know
you
of.
going to fire you?
You're
No,
right.
It really is the end.
What?
And I've apologized because our show may not get the numbers of Seinfeld or Friends or any of those shows. Who
Well,
does
it's a
lately?
different world.
It's a different world,
Yeah.
but still, even from the beginning, it was that way. But the people who love our show, they're emotionally connected, and
They really are.
I would say to them when I meet these people, I'm sorry. I can imagine what it feels like to you, and it just is. It's
Well, JB was telling me before, right, that people were like, "What are we going to do now? What are we?"
No, people literally are distraught.
They're bereft.
They will talk to
really
me.
though. It's amazing that you
it-
get this
No,
feedback.
I get people who they cannot resist asking about the show and saying, "How is it really the end? I can't believe it." I don't
And
know
they
what
say,
I'm
"We
gonna
need
do.
you. We need you so much."
Know what it is though? Here's what the show does. If you think about it, what Larry does is he takes life and these little things about life that bug you, that you love, that you hate, all these emotions that attach to people for real. And people really deal with pig parkers. People really deal with chatting cuts. People really deal with everything in the show. He finds a way. He notices everything.
Pig Parkers.
He notices every little nuance of what people do,
Yeah.
how they react,
And then he goes
how they
to the
answer
edge.
you, and he just finds this thing, and people love that, and that's the connection that the show has
Yeah.
with people.
And he says
they-
what
they will
everybody's
miss that.
thinking,
Yeah.
but they won't behave that
They
way.
won't-
And you
By the
won't
way,
behave that way in real
he
life.
gave
Miss that.
the great. To me, it's the greatest fantasy premise that I've ever seen in my life because there's not one person who wishes they could do it, and that's the Spike store. You're treated like crap, and you decide to move in next door with the same exact stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone, because when you go into a store and you're treated poorly, which happens, and quite often, and no one cares or they treat you poorly, you think, I wish I could fucking get you or get this, you
Right.
know. And he left that time at Mocha Joe's and went, fuck it, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And the idea that other famous people had their Spike stores, I think it was really-
Funniest damn season.
But that premise is my favorite Larry
Yeah.
David premise he's ever
Well,
done.
and
amazing.
the thing is, Larry is on the right side a good chunk
Almost
of the time.
always.
Yeah.
He's almost always right.
Yeah.
He just goes about it incorrectly.
No, yeah. Listen, and in real life, I've been in his office with him when somebody called and said, "Do you want to go to lunch?" And he says, I don't think so. and she said, "Well," and he said, "Well, why would we go to lunch?" She said, "Well, I haven't seen you in a year." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't think so." And he's like, "But if you have something you need to talk about, just tell me now." And she said, "No, I just thought
Well, by the
I
way,
thought we'd connect." And he's like,
I said,
no.
By the way, again, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that he does what you say, but also, you know what his reasoning is? People will call him for lunch, and he'll say, "Before all of this, I never had lunch with you. When we were comics in New York, I never had lunch with you. Now I'm going to have lunch with you right now." And he's happy to say,
But because he can be honest, and that's what.
But
he
he generally is not
would love to be.
that character in the way he treats people because he's way more sensitive. He couldn't be the leader. How many people are on the crew? 100?
Yeah.
He couldn't be the leader of this group if he treated people the way that
He
his
was
character
beloved.
treats.
He
them.
is
Totally
beloved.
beloved.
Yeah.
Crew would drop everything, other jobs, to come back to work on Curb
Well, he has
because
a
we
lot
never
of
had a
respect.
regular
He
schedule.
has a
He
lot
treats
of
everybody
respect
with
for people.
respect. He
That's right.
treats the crew,
Yeah.
and he loves hearing the words "flying in," half apple, whole apple. He loves that.
Apple.
That's one thing I did love about the show, and I've done it. I've mentioned this in interviews. Is it's the most amazing family.
Yeah.
And when you come back to work and you see those familiar faces
Oh yeah.
who are crew guys, and they smile and they hug you, you really
And
feel like
such professionals.
But it eggs you on so much because these are familiar faces who you see over Larry's shoulder,
Right.
holding their laughter in because or you see the camera shake a little bit because they got to turn their head because they're laughing at the scene. Because that's just what makes it so fun to work.
And fresh.
It's fresh. And you need that. And sometimes you need that audience. You need that feedback in that audience. Even if you hear them laughing in
Video
The Video
Yeah.
Village, a little bit. It's like,
Yeah.
you
can
hear a little bit.
Yeah.
It just
Even
eggs you
Schaefer
on even more.
sometimes will
Yeah,
I know, I'll laugh out
yeah,
loud.
and that eggs you on because we need it. Sometimes we need to hear.
Plus, we're
what
comics.
we're
We're used
doing.
to that.
We gotta
Yeah.
hear that feedback.
But
Well, plus
also,
we'll-
it's a very bouncy. When we're doing a scene, there's a lot of energy, a lot of comedy, and there's a lot of love. So it's just like it's putting on a glove.
Yeah.
When was the last time I put on gloves? A mitten, maybe.
But I think one of the reasons why we could all treat each other so despicably is because we know that we're just playing. Because we'll be screaming, yelling, then it'll be like, okay, where do you want to go to dinner? Yeah, it's just nobody's feelings are
Yeah,
hurt.
it is
By
fun
the way, how many
watching
people with you yelling at me early on? Not anymore, but I still get asked it.
Oh, if you're insulted
if
by
I'm
it,
insulted
yeah.
or said you worried about that the first time you did it.
Yeah, the first time, and then
First
then
time,
the
then you're
genie was
fine.
out of the bottle,
But
and that was
but I
it.
also told you go nuts, do whatever you want. But people will ask me, "What are you thinking about?" And I'm thinking, Susie's great. I'm having a great time, or what's a crap story?
That's usually what Jeff's thinking.
And I'm sure now people want you screaming at them, Susie.
Oh, they do.
Right? That
Yeah,
this
it's
is-
a little annoying.
No, what's funny is thinking about it now. It's so many ways of when I look at all the scenes and all the episodes, I just think about one turn of a screw and it changes a little bit, and it's just I think about scenes I've done with everybody, like me and Jeff had to talk about Moby Dick. You know what I mean? And you mean Moby Dick? No, Moby Dick. You know what I mean? And that could have went 5 minutes long just because it has that. It's the kind of scene that you can expand on. When Susie walks in, when I first met Susie in the scene, and she came in yelling at Larry, da 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 da, and Leon says, "I like a lady with a smart ass mouth like that." You know
See,
what I mean?
that was his comedic choice, and that set up a dynamic between us for the next 7 seasons.
It's crazy.
And it was just a choice he
Just
made
that
in
one
that moment.
choice.
Yeah.
What was it like to go back and watch episodes, not knowing what take they were ultimately going to use and how
Well, I
it all
never
was going to
remember
come
what
together?
take was what or what,
Ooh-wee.
you know.
So was it always pretty fresh then, I guess,
Yeah,
watching?
it always felt fresh to me.
It was so many versions of every scene. Like
Larry does something that I could never do, and I dropped out of editing maybe the second editing session because I couldn't handle it. He watches every take. He watches
Every take.
single take.
Yeah.
And he's meticulous about it. And where I if I'm directing something, I've already edited it in my mind. I know what I want.
Yeah.
I need that. No, he watches every single take. So truly, when it gets to the end, you don't know what's going to make it or not make it. Sometimes I'll call him and I'll go, if that's not in the show, I will wrestle you. like one of my favorites was when your mom asked Larry what a tallis was. And it was like the last take, and Larry goes, "It's a Jewish scarf." It is. And I said to him, right on set, I go, "If you don't use that, I'm going to wrestle you to the ground."
A lot of times while they're editing, I'll text or call Larry and Jeff, and I'll tell them I miss them. And they're like, "We don't miss you. We're watching you every day."
This is my first time. I've never watched any episodes ever. This is the first time I've ever screened some stuff with Larry. First time ever. And
Really?
Of course, I didn't see episode 10, but I saw most of the episodes before they were fully edited. First time ever. I've never wanted to see anything because I like watching the show as a fan.
Yeah.
So I like watching it when people watch it. I don't like knowing what's coming. I don't like knowing anything.
Well, the finale I wanted to watch in real time when everybody else was watching it.
Yep.
You
This
know,
is my first time ever watching any episodes. I've never wanted to see them. Ever. This is the first season I've ever saw anything.
so you haven't watched past seasons?
Outside of ADR, I've never seen anything.
Really?
They need a,
Well,
they
you
need a
need-
line here and there.
You need
I'll
to
do
start
that.
watching for their
But then I'll, like,
podcast, right?
Yeah.
Need to catch up
I've
for the
never-
podcast.
I've
The
never-
opposite.
My
I
7
watch
seasons.
everything, every episode, every cut, and it's the only thing that I do that with.
Mhm.
Every other thing I do, movies, other television shows, doesn't matter. I've never seen them.
Yeah, you just move on.
Well, there's two things that could happen. One is the movie's bad. The movie's great, but the movie could be bad, which is I really get upset about. But I know I'm going to be bad. at least from my perspective. I'm
It's
going to be
hard.
very
hard to
critical of
watch
myself.
yourself. It's really
but
hard to
this
watch
show,
yourself.
because we're all involved in it in such a creative way, and
it's so crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy so
And funny.
I'm happy to watch the show. Although I until this year, I rarely, if ever, would watch it when it airs because I've already seen it 2 or 3 times prior to it airing.
What's it been like to watch those old episodes? Those like early
They
2000s
really hold up.
episodes.
It's fun. I mean, the thing that they completely hold up, except for technology. That's the major thing.
Yeah.
You know, is you get Larry and Cheryl in a car. There's no GPS. They're that kind of stuff.
Well, we're lost.
It's interesting because the earlier shows were much more simplistic.
Yeah.
They were much more simplistic in the structure of them. They've gotten so dense in the later years, which I think a lot of that is the Schaefer.
Schaefer.
And that's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's
No,
just a
but
different
he's great.
dynamic.
He's made the show
it's just a
great.
different dynamic. But so many of the shows, every now and then there's a clinker, but so many of the shows are so funny.
No, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Rarely. I mean, there's so many more good.
There's probably 2 or 3 clinkers the whole history.
It's like
of the show.
99% are great.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Oh my God. Now I'm curious.
I
Now I wanna know.
I do not enjoy going back and watching them. It gives me a different experience when it's current and I'm watching the cuts because I'm so heavy. I'm over 300 pounds that I feel bad for myself. I look at it like, oh, that poor guy.
You were pretty large in those days.
I was.
I know, and I was really skinnier in those days.
Well, I didn't notice that. But also,
we were all a lot younger.
And we were all younger.
All younger.
Oh,
yeah.
That's the whole thing.
That is
But-
weird.
but-
It is really
so I
weird to
get
watch
very
yourself
upset
20 years
watching
ago.
that. I get very upset. It's unsettling to me to see this guy in so much pain. Because that's the reason you're gigantic like that is there's some pain going on. And I would say to Susie, when I don't want you to call me a fat fuck anymore, I will lose weight. And I did.
Yeah.
And for a while, she didn't call me a fat fuck. But in the recent seasons, even though I'm not a fat fuck, she'll still call me a fat fuck.
Yeah.
And it's really, really it's even funnier when you call me a fat
The
fuck.
last scene that we shot was a reshoot, and it was that scene where I'm in the wheelchair,
Right.
with the blonde wig. And Larry whispers to me, just for old time's sake, call him a fat fuck. And I just said, shove it up your fat fucking ass. Because I didn't want to do fat fuck again. It was like played out. So I found another way to say it.
Yeah, I didn't know that. He said it for
I will say one thing that hit home this season was when Jeff tried to dye his hair. Because I have tried that as well. And with similar.
Jeff didn't try and dye his hair. His wife made him dye his hair. And he knew damn well that first thing. It's you. And people are like, are you going to do that the whole season? Like, you got to watch. And then the second episode is where Rudy Giuliani is out.
Yeah.
But by the way, in terms of shooting out of sequence and doing what we had to do and reshooting this and that, I had to do that
I'll dye his hair and then
like
have it washed out.
dozens of
It was a
time.
pain in the
It was
ass.
a pain in the ass. And I didn't but every time we go, we have to do another thing here. I go, oh, fuck, all right.
So one thing that Larry mentioned at the Paley Center event is that he hates the term cringe comedy.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
How do you feel about
I
that?
agree with him.
It's not funny if it's cringy.
Yeah, and
cringy and
I
comedy don't go together.
I don't find it cringe worthy. I mean, I understand people like, oh, don't go there, when he's whatever he's going to do that's, out there. But it's not like cringe is like more.
It's not funny.
No,
You're
it's not.
not in
I
a
think
position to laugh.
No, I think it is. I think people use it because it reminds them of shit that bugs them. And Larry has an amazing ability to take those little things that annoy you and put them on the show.
Yeah.
And I think it's a word they use, but it's just a thing of, oh, I hate when people do that to me. I hate when they park over the line. I hate when they do this. It drives me crazy. It drives them crazy to the point where when Larry exposes it and puts it on the show, it reminds them of what they hate with a passion.
Yeah.
And I think they use it in a weird way, but I get why they say that.
Because it's also making people so uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
and like Schaefer was saying last night, there are lots of scenes in Curb where you're like, you know, as the viewer, you see, oh no, whatever you do, do not pee on Jesus.
Yeah, whatever.
And you're like, that can't be where this is headed, and then it's like, okay. And now he's walking up to the painting and you're just like, please, whatever you do, don't. And then he does it. But of course you keep watching. But that's the ridiculous part, because if you think it's so cringy, then don't watch it. But if you think it's funny.
But a lot
of
find it cringy, say they can't watch it, and they're not watchers of the show.
But also, a lot of people have told me over the years that at first they felt that
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
And then they got into watching the show, and then they
Yes,
loved
I've
it.
heard
They push through the pain.
They love
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That's Jeff Garlin, Susie Essman, JB Smoove, and Cheryl Hines from HBO's now-ended comedy staple, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Catch up on the series via Max. And that's it for this edition of Variety's Award Circuit Podcast. Aaron Greenewald edited this episode, and Michael Schneider is the producer. Be sure to subscribe to the Award Circuit Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. Also, head on over to Variety.com and click on the Award Circuit tab to find the latest awards predictions and key races, as well as your daily fix of news, analysis, and reviews. For Jazz Tanke, Emily Longaretta, and Clayton Davis, I'm Michael Schneider, and we'll see you on the circuit.